Everyone starting out in this line of work wants to know what they should charge for private investigative services. Hi, this is Larry Kaye with ShadowAnyone.com and the creator of the Investigator's Ultimate Guide series, which is premium private investigator training from someone who's been there and done that. And been there, done that. Look, a lot of people, honestly, a lot of people can teach you little tricks and hints and things for skip tracing or surveillance or process serving. That's a skill you can kind of learn on one side. One of the advantages you have here is I've had my own detective agency for 9 years. That's how you pay the mortgage, that's how you buy the groceries. And when that's the way it is, there's also a business element. This is the private investigation business. You may be really good as a private investigator, but if you don't get the business side of it, you're doomed right from the beginning. So the question is what people want to know when they're a good investigator. Maybe they even got their license. They're ready to open up shop for themselves now. The question is, how much should I charge? And I'm going to explain that to you in a little bit of detail here and tell you something a little embarrassing as well. First, let me give you a do not price your services compared to the other detective agencies. Yes, it's nice to know what they're charging. Maybe you do want to be in that same ballpark with them, but don't base your prices on what the other guy is charging. That's a race to the bottom, because the instinct, everybody thinks this. They think if I price my services a little bit lower, then I'm going to get the clients, but your competition can price theirs a little below you, and the clients you get, these bottom price clients, are the worst clients in the world to have. They're more difficult to please, and they will leave you to save a nickel somewhere else. So don't price your services related to other detective agencies. Here's an interesting rule of thumb when pricing products or services, and I'm not going to say this is not directly for our industry, but just think about it in general for a moment. Imagine the value that a client gets from your service or product. Try to formulate that in your mind for a moment. Sometimes this dollar amount isn't always obvious to you. Sometimes it is. If you're working a skip trace so a construction company can repossess a $100,000 piece of construction equipment that has been kind of taken away from them, maybe arguably even stolen from them, they need to get that $100,000 piece of property back. If you're the one that can find it, what's that worth? If you're working a case for someone who has had a divorce and in their spousal support agreement, it's said that if the former wife remarries or cohabitates, that the husband, your client, can stop paying alimony or spousal support to that person. How much is that worth? What if that person is paying $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month? I worked one case where the guy was paying $4,000 a month to his ex-wife. If you can come in with your services, how much is that worth to him to not have to pay $4,000 a month every month for the rest of his life? So now look at it from your perspective again. Step back over into the other side and you say to yourself, well, I could probably find this construction equipment. I know the name of the guy that took off with it, and I've got these databases. I probably could run $30 worth of database searches, maybe spend 2-3 hours running around to different spots in town, or maybe just 2 hours off to this county that's a little ways away and check out some sites, see what I come up with, make a few phone calls. And you know that maybe with less than 40 hours of actual work and less than $100 in actual cost, you could find this gear. Don't say to yourself, well, gosh, I probably can't charge more than $20 an hour for my time, or I can't charge, I'm just running out there. The gas money, it's only this or that. How am I going to justify charging more than that to this client? No, your client wants back a $100,000 piece of gear. If you charge $5,000 to find it, your client is still getting a heck of a deal. And I'm not saying gouge your client, take advantage of them when they're in a weak position or when they're financially in trouble, that you can come in. But let's face it, the client has probably already tried on their own to find that piece of construction gear, and they've failed and they've given up. They may have even hired some cheaper people or tried some other things. And sometimes they'll tell you this. They'll say, I hired a a repo company, or I hired another guy and I ended up paying him $700 and he got nothing for me. Well, look, you're about to find a $100,000 piece of gear this guy needs. Charge what you're worth. Let me take you outside of our industry here for a moment and talk to you about some industries. And this may not be ours specifically, it may not be specific to you, but I'm going to give you a number, something that you can punch into the calculator and calculate and think about. Think about if you're providing 10 times the value to the person. Maybe that's about where you should be charging. So imagine this $100,000 piece of construction equipment. If you can recover it for $10,000, the client is still way ahead. Maybe even their insurance company will cover that cost, your cost for them, instead of dinging them for having to cover $100,000 for the missing piece of gear. For a man who's paying $4,000 a month every month in spousal support, what if you charge just $4,000 one time to go out and spend 3 days doing the surveillance necessary to get him out of that? Would that be worth it to him? Yeah, and that's a fraction of that 10x I'm talking about. Now, you may bristle at charging $4,000 for 3 days of surveillance, and I have to admit that seems a bit egregious to me. You may say, oh, I can't charge $10,000 to track down a piece of gear. I know I do this type of thing all the time. Maybe it's a $4,000 or $5,000 case or a $3,000 case. My point is, charge what you're comfortable charging, but don't undercharge the person. And if you're in a position where what you're charging is just 10% of the value that client is going to get, you should not feel too bad about that. Maybe you want to charge a little less than that, maybe you want to charge a little bit more, but really think, this person is getting 10 times what they paid you in value. That's nothing for you to be ashamed of. In fact, that's bragging rights in my book. If you can say, your clients are getting $1,000 worth of value for every $100 they pay you, man, that's pretty remarkable. Okay, so what's the embarrassing thing that I promised to share with you? It's this. I didn't always follow this rule myself, and even right now, I'm not. My courses, my instructional videos that I have for surveillance or process serving, they're undervalued based on this 10x rule, far undervalued. And process serving is an easy one to look at, for example, because the course that I have, the Investigator's Ultimate Guide to Process Serving, full retail value is $400. I frequently have it on sale for $250. But immediately I can do the math and know at $50 a service pack, if that's all you charge, and let's face it, nowadays the prices are going up, but if you're only making $50 per service pack, you only have to serve 5 packs in order to break even on buying the course, learning how to do this. Everything after that for you is pure profit. Look, you may not serve 5 packets the first 30 days you're trying to do this. You've got to get the clients. But once you get clients, you're going to serve packets all the time. And if you have a month where you're only serving 5, that's a slow month. So in other words, I'm kind of looking at it and saying, well, if you give me one small slow month's worth of what you make, I will give you the tools, the information to make that money every month over and over again for as long as you like. That's quite the deal. And I'll be honest with you, if somebody came to me with a credible offer and said, Larry, you give me $250 today and I will make it so that you can earn an extra $250 a month every month for as long as you want, I would take that deal myself. So look, yes, I have undervalued the products that I'm selling, but I'm comfortable at that price point, at $400 or certainly at $250, but definitely at $400 as well. It's quite well worth it to learn a skill that's going to pay you over and over again. And I can tell you, when I tried to get into process serving, when I wanted to add that to my bottom line to help make ends meet when I was starting out, I could not find anybody who would teach me. I went even to my personal attorney and offered to pay to sit down with her and have her tell me what she knows about process serving. She wouldn't do it. Now, come to find out, most attorneys don't know a ton about process serving, and they certainly don't know the finer points of skip tracing that I teach in my course. They don't know the business side, how to invoice clients, how to get clients, what to say. That is But all of that aside, I couldn't even find somebody. I couldn't pay enough money to get taught this stuff when I tried to learn it. So I am very comfortable helping people out and offering this course at $400 or even only $250. But when you're pricing your services, remember, don't base it on your side of the equation and what you know, because you're underestimating, for starters, what it's actually costing you to go out and do the work that you do. Look at the value you give to clients and base your pricing on that. If you've had any struggles with pricing your services, if you finally have found a point where, yes, Larry, I went through that and I figured out here's where I like to price my services, drop it in the comments. We can all learn from each other. In the meantime, this is Larry Kaye with ShadowAnyone.com. Remember, do the right thing, even if it's the hard thing.